Hey everybody, today is January 23rd, so we'll be looking at January 22nd's MTG stocks. As you can see, there is a little bit of price increase there, and look a little bit more into price decreases and some Theros Beyond stuff. Still not quite out yet, so we still don't trust any of this, basically. But we can see this huge spike here, and this was the one that we looked at last time, which is a Sacred Guide. A couple of other Theros Beyond stuff and some other neat things. But for today, we'll go ahead and get into our biggest price increase, which was the Gibbering Descent. Gibbering Descent went from 502 to 752, and it's from the Future Sight set. I really like the Future Sight set. It's a really neat idea. It was basically because the whole block was actually really neat. There's Time Spiral, Future Sight, and then I think it was Planar Chaos. And so basically Planar Chaos was changing well-established kind of things in the sense of like they would make some red cards blue cards and kind of vice versa, and that's kind of the shtick to that. And then Future Sight was basically kind of looking ahead and seeing new things in the future. I think one of like the big implications was I believe they were kind of hinting at planeswalkers in Time Spiral or Future Sight, not Time Spiral. And they did that by like, I think they had like Jaya, for instance, and stuff like that. So they didn't actually have planeswalkers at that point because the planeswalker set, the first set that had planeswalkers was Lorwyn. So but they were kind of hinting at it from what I've heard. And then the last one was Time Spiral, which kind of the neat idea of that was it was kind of like bringing back old cards or kind of like taking old cards and kind of renewing them. Like the kind of like the big thing that they did is it had a Time Spiral slot, and so what it was is it was a purple identifier. So like usually there's, as we can see here, there's like a gold, but like in Time Spiral they had one slot that would I don't think it's every pack. I think it's just every couple of packs or every so many often packs. But you would get a purple card, and that basically was called Time Shifted, and basically they brought back a card that was printed in the past and they reprinted it. So it's kind of like a neat idea. But anyways, what Gibbering Descent does, kind of get back into this, is that it costs 4 colorless and 2 black as an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player loses 1 life and discards a card. Hellbent, skip your upkeep step if you have no cards in hand. So Hellbent is a keyword, but basically just the keyword mostly is defined by if you have no cards in hand. And so it's kind of a weird thing. Skip your upkeep if you have no cards. And so what's kind of interesting about this is that means that no one can respond between your turns. So you have your untap and then you go straight to draw, and there is no time to respond between those steps until after your draw phase kind of ends. But what's good about this is that, as we can see, it works well with at the beginning of each player's upkeep, player loses a life and discards a card. So you won't be losing a life anymore because you're not having your upkeep. And then discarding cards, whatever, if you are playing this card, you are probably sort of going around the idea of you want to have no cards in your hand. And then the other thing is that this is a Madness card. So Madness, it costs 2 colorless and black, and basically with this is if you discard this card, you can instead discard it into exile, and then you can cast it for its Madness cost or put it into your graveyard. So basically you put it into exile, and then you can cast it or don't. If you don't, you just put it back into your graveyard. If you do, you cast it, and then it goes to your graveyard after the stack has been whatevered. But what's interesting about this card is you're losing 1 life and making each player discard a card. Pretty annoying, but I think the real key here is skipping your upkeep step. And so sure, it helps Gibbering Descent, but there are a lot of other cards that kind of help you get a benefit. So like one thing I can think of is we have the blue enchantments. It's I believe Mystic Remora, where it has, if it's not Mystic Remora, it's the other one that's like Mystic Remora, but I'm pretty sure it's Mystic Remora. Basically what that one is that it has a cumulative upkeep of one colorless, but every time your opponent plays a spell, plays a non-creature spell, they have to pay 4 or you draw a card. And so with Gibbering Descent, you actually will skip that upkeep. And at that point in time, you won't have to you don't have to pay that anymore, and basically you can have Mystic Remora out. Now, will that combo well with Gibbering Descent? Maybe, because as long as you don't have any cards by the end of your turn, then you will keep drawing. So you draw cards, and then the only way you can really get rid of them all is if you somehow cast them all before your turn ends. So it'd be I don't think it'd be a great combo, because you're going to be drawing cards on other people's turns, and you'd have to somehow get rid of all your cards before your turn starts. So probably not a good idea, but that's an application idea, for instance. Anyways, let's go ahead and go to the next card here. This one is Saskia Orochi Ascendant. This one increased from 207 to 259, but I think not too long ago this card was going for about $1, so it's a little bit more. I bought a couple of these because it's just an interesting card. Let's go and get into this. This is Saskia Orochi Ascendant is a 1 colorless green. It is a 2/3 legendary creature snake monk. So for snake boys, you can have that, but you're probably not going to use it for a snake deck, because if we read this here, it says reveal your hand. So this is a casting cost. So you just reveal your hand as a cost. If you have 7 or more lands in hand, flip Saskia Orochi Ascendant. So it's like, all right, this is kind of like a weird Kamigawa thing they did, where I love Kamigawa, so I like these kind of cards, but basically you have Saskia here, and then once you flip it up, it kind of has like a different artwork. So it's 2 artworks in one, and I really like the concept. It's a little bit hard to read, of course, because you have to like flip upside down, and it's kind of a weird mechanic, but I do like it. So anyways, so as we can see here, this is actually very hard to pull off. You need to have 7 lands in your hand. So that means you are going to need a lot of cards that put lands in your hand, or you're going to need a absurd amount of lands in your deck. But if you were to have 7 lands in your hand, let's see what happens. So then it turns into Sasaya's Essence, which is a legendary enchantment. Whenever a land you control is tapped for mana, add an additional 1 mana of any type that land can produce for each other land you control with the same name as it. So, unless I'm reading this wrong, this basically means, so let's say it's Saskia, let's say you get him out turn 3, and then turn 4 comes around, and you somehow have 7 lands in your hand. Well, let's say that you're probably a mono green deck here, because it's, if we make this our commander, for instance, because it is a legendary creature. Sometimes these flip cards, they have like a legendary side, but the other side isn't legendary, and I'm pretty sure you can't use that as your commander. But in this case, we can. So let's say you have 3 forests out, you reveal your hand, now you have 7 lands in your hand, flip it over, and you put another forest down. So you have 4 forests, let's just say. So we have 4 forests, we have this guy, he's flipped. At that point in time, each forest will give you 4 mana, because it says add an additional 1 mana of any type that land can produce for each other land you control with the same name as it. So you're each other land. So if you have 4 forests, that means you tap that 1 forest, you produce the original mana, and then you produce 3 extra mana because there are 3 other forests. So huge amount of ramp. Huge. Now it's going to be a little bit difficult, because you do, like I said before, you have to get 7 lands in your hand. And 7 lands on the field would be a lot easier. 7 lands in hand is difficult. But if you could pull it off, and I'm sure there's ways, there are a lot of green cards that... So if we think of like Kodama's Reach, which gives you a land in hand and puts a land on field, that'd probably be a decent card for this deck. It's a decent card for most green decks, but a bit better in this deck just because it's putting it into your hand as well. And there are other cards where you search specifically for like 2 lands, put them in your hands. So once you do that, then you can start getting at huge stuff. And I think it'd be pretty fun to build a deck around this, and that's why I bought it. Maybe one day I'll try to do a mono green Saskia deck, but I don't know. We'll see. It'll be fun though. Let's go and go to our next card here. So a price decrease. This was Tree Shaker Chimera, and this went from $7.88 to $5.96. But this is from Theros Bound Death. I'm assuming this card. I can only assume this card won't be worth a lot, at least not initially. Like right now, it's $5-6. But I assume this card will eventually come down to like 50 cents. I hope, anyways. I really do hope, because this seems like a very good green card to put in a commander deck. It's a big creature. You can make people kill off stuff they don't want to, but then you also get a huge benefit of drawing 3 cards. And I've recently made a Corridor deck. And I think Tree Shaker Chimera would be great in a Corridor deck, because as long as you have the mana to cast it, you pay 7 mana, put him out, try and kill him off as fast as you can. You can either sacrifice it or wait and attack with it. And then he dies, draw 3 cards. But then with Corridor, you can bring him back, keep bringing him back out. So it's basically 7 mana. It's a 7 mana 8/5 draw 3, and that could be pretty good. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be like amazing, and I'm hoping that it's not like one of those things where everybody is like, oh yeah, this is actually a really good card, and everybody buys it and then it becomes like a $5-10 staple or something. I prefer this just be kind of a low cost, just so I can actually put it in decks. But I guess if it does, then what can you do? But I do like this card a lot, and I think it gives a pretty decent way to, especially for aristocrat or graveyard decks in general, to get a lot of drawback. Not a drawback, but getting draw cards back to the field. How about that? Sure. But I like the card. Hopefully it'll keep going up, but we'll see. All right, and then our last card of regular cards to look at is Purphoros Bronze Blooded. So Purphoros Bronze Blooded went from 909 to 714, and he is also from Theros Beyond Death. This one surprised me a little bit, because usually pre-order stuff, because it's still in pre-order mode technically. I mean, people have the cards at this point, but it doesn't technically release until, I believe, tomorrow. But it was kind of weird that he's down to $6, just because I figured God cards would be like way overpriced, like $20, $30, $40, but maybe this one isn't hyped enough, and so maybe that's why the price is low. Let's see if he is worth the $6 even. So Purphoros Bronze Blooded costs 4 colorless and 1 red. He's a 7/6 legendary enchantment creature, and it's a god. It has indestructible, and as long as your devotion to red is less than 5, Purphoros isn't a creature. Alright, so basically very hard to kill, because he has indestructible, but also very hard to kill if you don't have devotion. Indestructible enchantments, there are cards, of course, to get rid of these things, but it is hard to get rid of. Then let's go ahead and go to his actual effects, which his first effect is other creatures you control have haste, which is pretty good. I mean, it's having haste on a indestructible enchantment in a mono red deck seems good. It seems something that fits red. But I'm just going to read the second ability here, which is kind of the main thing, which is you can pay 2 in red. And you don't have to tap him, so you can do this as much as you want if you have the means. But so you pay 2 colorless, a red, and you may put a red creature card or an artifact creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. You sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So this is where you pay 3 mana and you put out a huge creature, and it will have haste because of Purphoros' ability here, and you sacrifice it. I feel like this is a very good way to make an aristocrat deck, or really play off death triggers. So for instance, Wormcall Engine would be really good for this. Put out Wormcall Engine for 3. He has haste. You attack with it. You have a 6/6 Death Touch lifelink. You can coming at somebody. They're like, okay, well that's not good. They either block it or don't block it. But then at the end, you sacrifice it, and then you make the 3/3 lifelink, and then you make a 3/3 Death Touch. And so that's just like one instance of where you pay 3 mana, you get 6 life probably, you maybe kill off a creature, but then you make 2 3/3s. And I mean, there's going to be other really good things. There's that one dinosaur that we looked at, I believe, yesterday, which, see, no, maybe we didn't look at it yesterday, but basically the dinosaur, when it attacks, everybody exiles the top card of their graveyard or their library, and you can cast that card for free. And so you put that out for 3 mana. I just feel like it's a very good engine, and if you have a way to recur from the graveyard or anything like that, you can get a lot of value. So I think this will be a pretty good commander. Maybe not as good as the original Purphoros. I will say that the original Purphoros is a little bit hard to deal with. Very hard to deal with, and you die really quickly. But I do like the idea of this commander. He will probably be good in Jund decks that really focus on aristocrats or sacrifice or whatever. And this also would probably be good for any graveyard. So even Mardu would probably be pretty good for this. So let's go ahead and go to our random card of the night, which no, that is actually not even our commander card. I forgot. That is just one of the MTG stocks cards. The next card here is our commander card, which is Saskia The Unyielding. So Saskia The Unyielding, we played this last night in a cooperative commander game, and it was pretty neat to see this guy. Like, we just had the precon, and so the precon actually did really well, which was nice. So what Saskia The Unyielding does is it costs a black, red, green, and white, and it is a 3/4 legendary creature human soldier. It has vigilance and haste, and when it enters the battlefield, you choose a player. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. So basically, this isn't double strike. This is double damage, I guess. But it's nice because it's not to because usually these double damage things are like to everything. And so this kind of gives you a little bit easier time to direct that. Now, when you do this, though, the person that you are targeting will target you immediately because now you're dealing double damage to that person, and they don't like that, which is fair. But the other thing that's nice is that with these Boros colors, the white and red, there are a lot of Boros things that are like deal double damage, or there's the angel that's basically deal double damage and then take half damage. So Saskia and that Boros angel, you can basically do quadruple damage. And if you have another way to do more damage, like double damage, then it just keeps stacking and it gets a little bit exponential and a little bit crazy. But it was this is nice, and I there are some things that are like, so it deals combat damage to a player, and then it deals that much damage to the chosen player. So if you have effects that say, like, when this creature deals damage, get some sort of effect, that should proc twice, which is pretty nice. Like, one that wouldn't work in this case because it's Niv Mizzet, which is a blue-red creature. But let's just say if you have, for some reason, Niv Mizzet and Saskia out in a Wooburg deck. But, so if Niv Mizzet attacked, and then he would deal combat damage, and then his ability would go off. And this is the, I know there's 3 Niv Mizzet, I guess 4 Niv Mizzets now, but it's a Niv Mizzet where when it deals damage, you draw a card, for instance. And so in this case, it would deal combat damage, it would draw a card, and then Saskia's ability would go off, and Niv Mizzet would deal another 6 damage, and then it would also let you draw a card. That'd be 2 instances of card draw. So pretty neat, and there's probably good ways to abuse that. So it's a neat card. I think the color combination is pretty good as well. I mean, you're missing blue, which I guess can be considered bad, but whatever. It's a neat concept. Very aggro. And then to kind of play into this commander, our random card of the night is Mokoiloth. So this doesn't maybe quite seem like, doesn't quite scream Saskia, maybe, but I've always loved this card. This is probably one of my favorite cards, and it's, for some reason, like, I remember, because I played back in Shards, and that's kind of where I was introduced to it. Yeah, because it is actually a Shards card. How about that? But it was basically, it was like, he's my boy, and it's funny is that Mokoiloth has pretty much always been around $3 to $5, and so I just kind of realized that. I was like, oh, I guess he's reprinted enough to keep him down, but he will work well with Saskia. Let's go ahead and read into him. So Mokoiloth costs 3 colorless, green. He is a creature fungus. He has Devour 2, which was introduced in Shards. So Devour is you can sacrifice any number of creatures, and then this creature enters the battlefield with twice that many +1/+1 counters on it. So if you were to devour 5 creatures, you would do 2 times 5, and you come to play with 10 +1/+1 counters on them. So it would become a 14/14, for instance. But his other ability here, and this is a big one, at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token for each +1/+1 counter on Mokoiloth. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you will make 10 1/1 sapperlings. And you keep doing this for every upkeep. And when you aren't restricted to just one Mokoiloth, you can basically Mokoiloth, get like 4 sapperlings per upkeep, and then you can sacrifice those sapperlings to another Mokoiloth, and he just becomes bigger and bigger, and it's amazing. But why this works pretty well with Saskia, I'm gonna go with Saskia, is that basically you get a bunch of sapperlings out, and then at that point in time, as long as you can buff them a little bit, because Saskia, you can either go Voltron with this, where basically, you have Saskia and you're like, all right, I'm going to buff up Saskia as much as I can, and I'm just going to do a bunch of damage. Or you can go more of a strategy of going wide, or you can do both a little bit. But going wide is basically where you just get a whole bunch of creature tokens out, and in this case with Mokoiloth, get a whole bunch of creature tokens out, and then you buff them up a little bit, giving them +1/+1 counters or other abilities that allow them to do that. And then suddenly, when you're attacking with 10 creatures, they're like, okay, well, I can block like 3 of them, and then 7 get through. And then suddenly 7 2/2s, which would be doing 14 damage, are now suddenly doing 28 damage. And that gets pretty spooky pretty quick. So pretty good combination there. Honestly, I just love Mokoiloth. But Mokoiloth and everything. Whatever. Mokoiloth and all. But anyways, let's go and end this off with a couple of random cards as always. So, random card numero uno. We have Ondu War Cleric. This is a 1 colorless white creature human cleric ally. He has Cohort, and this allows you to tap him and tap an ally you control, and you gain 2 life. So I can't exactly remember what Cohort does. I believe Cohort is specifically for allies, because allies was kind of like a big theme. But Cohort could just be tap and untap ally you control. That might be it. But anyways, he's also a 2/2. So basically, he's a cleric and gets you life if you tap 2 creatures, which doesn't seem very good. That's no bueno to me. I do like the sword though. It is very pretty. We'll give him that. How about that? Let's go and go to our second card here. And hey, Elspeth. So this is Elspeth, Sun's Champion. This is a 4 colorless white legendary planeswalker, Elspeth. So it starts with a loyalty of 4. It's kind of weird how it has these power and flying stuff. Let's go over to a more regular one. How about that? Let's go to the Theros one. But anyways, so her +1 ability is create 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, which is crazy. That is super crazy to me. It always has been. Her -3 ability is destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. Very good for white weenie decks. And then her -7 is you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying. So she's basically, like, if you have a white weenie deck, she's good. She's very good. It allows you a lot of versatility. First off, you can get a lot of creatures out real quick. It gives her 3 blockers unless they have flying. You can also destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater when she comes out. So, at that point in time, she's a board wipe, but she still stays. So she costs 6 mana, and she's a board wipe for big creatures, but she stays on the board still. And her -7 is, it's pretty good. I'm not going to say it's crazy. I've seen crazier stuff than this, but it's still pretty good. I mean, giving all your creatures +2/+2 and flying, usually these kind of abilities, I don't think they usually give you flying. I think it's more like reach or something. So it's kind of nice to be able to be like, okay, well, I'm a white weenie deck. I'm going to have a bunch of creatures. All right, they're all now flying and +2/+2. I'm now Spooky Boy. And yeah. Now, the only thing I could see that'd be a little bit better is getting indestructible, but I think everybody would kind of die on the inside if that happened. But good card to end off on here. We'll go ahead and call it a night. I hope you all enjoyed. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.